You're as useful to me now as a backstage pass to Limp Bizkit.
2000 was a weird year. You had a gaming juggernaut on every known form of life support, alongside a top-selling album with this as its cover art. Yet, against all odds, these two forces would team up for one of the strangest crossovers in all of gaming, and the second strangest for Sega. As a professional music appreciator and consumer of all things blue, the more I learned about these crossovers, yes, there's multiple, the more baffled I became. And like the most baffling things, it all begins in Florida. The year is 1994. After a multitude of failed bands, rapper, singer, and dude bro poster child Fred Durst yoinks previous bandmate slash bassist Sam Rivers and convinces him to start a rap metal band with him. The two, accompanied by drummer John Otto, guitarist Wes Borland, and later DJ Lethal, would form the band Limp Bizkit, a name Durst chose to scare both the hoes and the bros. The band, with their energetic live shows, would gain a cult-like following in Florida's underground music scene. Then one day, in 1995, Korn, the guys who go were in town for a tour. Fred would tattoo the band's bassist, allegedly not very well, and somehow got the man to listen to Limp Bizkit's demos. Korn would take the unsigned band on a few tours, sparking a bidding war between record labels. In a comedically douchey move, Limp Bizkit told Flip Records they'd only sign with them if their van literally flipped on the way to close their deal with Mojo Records. Now under Flip, Limp Bizkit would begin releasing albums such as 1997's $3 Bill Y'all and 1999's Significant Other, quickly becoming the go-to band for the worst person you know. With all this success came bigger touring opportunities, like a spot on 1998's Ozfest, and more notably, headlining the 1999 Family Values Tour, and it was on this tour that Limp Bizkit would first cross paths with Sega. It's November of 1998, and Sega is getting desperate. After a multitude of bad decisions and arguably the fumble of a generation, the performance of their console, the Dreamcast, would determine their future as a company. After its launch in Japan, Sega of America was given 10 months to get their together for the console's North American release. And so, in August of 1999, Sega began the console's ad campaign with... Brother, none of these are advertising a game console. These were the anti-drug PSAs I saw in the 7th grade! Despite the rough start, hundreds of Hollywood video locations were given pre-launch models of the Dreamcast to rent to customers. Pre-orders for the console skyrocketed, so much so that Sega declared the Dreamcast as the most anticipated console in history, which, in hindsight, might have been the wrong call. Finally, on 9/9/99, the Dreamcast was launched and made a whopping $97 million in sales on the first day alone, none of which Sega could pocket as they were too busy spending $100 million on the console's advertising campaign, a campaign that would include sponsoring the 1999 Family Values Tour.
A lot of bands are scared to even hang out with you after the shows, and we're one big happy family with fingers up each other's butts.
While sponsoring the tour, Limp Bizkit bore witness to Sega slapping the Dreamcast logo onto everything. The tour bus, the merch, hell, they probably asked Fred to tattoo it on a band for old time's sake, but none of which would hold a candle to the accompanying Sega Dreamcast Mobile Assault Tour. For 22 weeks, Sega toured 2 of these trucks around the USA. One would stop by malls, skate parks, and everywhere you weren't cool enough for, while the other exclusively followed the Family Values Tour. Each truck carried a total of 8 Dreamcast kiosks, 4 on the inside for competitions, and 4 on the outside for those who think moving the controller makes you play better. However, that's not the craziest part. No, that honor goes to the additional trailer, which carried 2 off-road buggies, each of which had an extra 4 Dreamcast kiosks.
Why couldn't I have been a 90s kid?
It's thanks to these tours colliding that we got this legendary photo featuring Limp Bizkit playing on the off-road kiosks, accompanied with this pit bull chewing on my man's sock. Despite some hiccups, the month-and-a-half-long Family Values Tour was a success. Meanwhile, the Mobile Assault Tour would continue its venture throughout America until January of 2000, where it was an even bigger success. So much so that Sega decided they would do an additional tour throughout the rest of 2000, but this time, they would be advertising an additional product, and who better to do that with than Limp Bizkit.
Sega Dreamcast games are now online, unleashing the ultimate horror, your fellow Americans.
With the rumblings of a new PlayStation console, which, by the way, Sega could have prevented, the Dreamcast title of the most anticipated console release was beginning to be tested. Sega was looking for ways to stay at the top of the 6th console generation. So, with each Dreamcast coming with a modem attached, Sega of America would take a risk and become an internet service provider, launching SegaNet. Players would pay a monthly subscription that would allow them to play online with anyone across the USA through Sega servers, making this the first ever console to have online capabilities. So the next time you get called a slur in a game like Call of Duty, you can thank Sega. With the launch of SegaNet, the company wouldn't just sponsor Limp Bizkit's next tour, no, they would take things a step further. An advertisement featuring the band would appear in the official Dreamcast magazine, alongside a quote from Fred Durst which states, "If you get your ass kicked, it's probably me on the other end of the line." Which, let's be honest, he never said that. Alongside this, Sega's Rumble with a Rockstar contest would be announced both via the Dreamcast magazine and local radio stations.
You could rumble with the Rockstar. Here's your chance to compete against Fred Durst of Limp Bizkit on the Sega Dreamcast. Projected onto a huge stage screen in front of thousands of Limp Bizkit fans. In this corner with the red cap, Fred Durst. On the other side, you.
This contest would feature 3 tiers of prizes. 100 people would win a collector's edition of the Family Values 1999 tour CD. And nothing else, because I guess now Sega decided to be stingy. A first prize winner would get the chance to play against Fred Durst via SegaNet alongside 5 Dreamcast games, plus the Family Value CD. And finally, the grand prize winner, who would be flown out to a concert venue of their choice to take on Fred Durst in front of the concert goers via a projected screen, but not receive any Dreamcast games apparently. With the contest prizes heavily tied to the Family Values tour, Sega planned to sponsor the next one. However, those plans were cut short when the tour went on an unexpected hiatus thanks to competition from, funnily enough, Limp Bizkit. Together with the likes of Papa Roach and Eminem, these 3 acts would launch the Anger Management Tour. Because of this shift, it seems the original contest was either altered or quietly cancelled. But we'll get into that shortly. Regardless, Sega was now sponsoring the Anger Management Tour, and just like the year prior, Sega would slap another logo onto the tour bus, all the merch, and maybe they asked Fred to tattoo it on Eminem for old time's sake. The mobile assault truck would return, this time with an added spot for fans to sign up for a SegaNet subscription. 2 months into the Anger Management Tour, the official Dreamcast magazine would publish an article and state that, at each date, winners of local radio station competitions went head-to-head with Fred Durst. Competitions that, thanks to archived photos from the Mobile Assault Tour website, be it not the best of quality, looked to be taken backstage. Each winner walked away with a year's subscription to SegaNet and a Dreamcast signed by the band. As for why this wasn't done on the main stage in front of the crowd though, well, it's probably hard to project gameplay onto a giant Gundam in the year 2000. But hey, giving more fans the chance to play against Fred Durst was a really cool move, both on the band's part and Sega's. And that's not even considering all the Dreamcast the band signed for local contests the year prior, which is why I think this collaboration came to be. While Sega's VP of marketing at the time, Julia Miller, was quoted in saying,
"Limp Bizkit fans are parallel with our core audience of online gamers."
They could have sponsored any other band and said that. I think this collaboration worked for a few reasons. From a business perspective, Limp Bizkit was absolutely dominating at this time. The record they were touring, still the fastest selling rock album of all time. Yes, this prestigious title belongs to this project. But I think Limp Bizkit's willingness to do this brand deal wasn't just for the paycheck, though the money certainly helped. Behind Fred Durst's douchey dude bro persona is a man whose Twitter profile currently looks like this. It's been well documented that Fred Durst is kind of a dork. He's been quoted in saying that Revenge of the Nerds deeply resonated with him while growing up. He's shown off his Evangelion figure on multiple occasions. And on top of that, there's been rumors for years in which any video game that wanted to include a Limp Bizkit song had to include Fred Durst as a playable character. At first, I was baffled by Sega's decision to choose Limp Bizkit to promote the Dreamcast. But now, I can't think of a band better suited to appeal to both jocks and nerds. Sorry, Weezer. While this is just my theory, what I can say for sure is what happened after this collaboration. The Anger Management Tour came to a close in February of 2001. 5 months later, Sega announced the discontinuation of both SegaNet and the Dreamcast. It was no match for the PlayStation 2, which went on to become the top-selling console of all time. Sega became a third-party developer and have been creating games for other hardware ever since. As for Limp Bizkit, the relevancy waned, and their next album sold 1/8 of what their previous did. The band would take a long hiatus hiatus, but would be rediscovered and embraced by Gen Z 20 years later. Now fully owning their dad rock status, Limp Bizkit are performing to packed audiences once again, and as much as I've clowned on the band in this video, I'm truly happy they're doing as well as they are all these years later. Check out this shadow quote or MCR lyric video if you want more weird crossovers. Like and subscribe to support the channel, and keep on rolling, baby. I can't do it like him.